I hope you're all doing okay. We got a bunch of very nice musicians here. I'm not going to take their time away. That's not my call to make. It's their expertise here. So here we have the living Tombstone. We have Thorinair right next to him. We have right here from Germany, Jayb. All the way from cold Russia, we have Hmage. So you're all here to answer your questions. You can queue up. You know how these things work maybe if you've been at the Q&A earlier with Nicole and Larson. Make sure to keep things, you know, family friendly and decent. They're just community guests, but still, that doesn't mean you shouldn't act like perfectly decent people. Just saying. Behave a bit, please. So, you can ask them questions. Well, the questions will be discussed among the artists and the musicians. Living Tombstone will show off some stuff on his laptop. Hello. Yes, he'll do that. So you'll get both some demonstration and you'll get some questions answered. So make use of that. You'll see good things. You'll be learning new things. So I know, you're presently not listening to me right now. I know that. I'm not stupid. So without further ado, I'll let you be. Make sure to come here, line up for questions, and have some fun, okay?
Hi.
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 So as you guys know us, we make electronic music. That's what we do for almost all of our lives, basically, doing just music and saying no all the time to many people. Like to me, stop being an annoying brat. Anyway, so basically, I mean, right now, I mean, as we go through this panel, I'm basically gonna start working on a song and hopefully have something finished by the end of it. I mean, I have an hour, and by in an hour I have a finished product, but one thing for sure is that it's really rushed. Whatever I'm making here, it's not something that you obviously need to make under an hour, because the more time you take with a song, the better, because the more time you have with it, the more you can improve on production and just make everything. And this is just for demonstrating like how, let's say, I work when it comes to having, you know, a song basically. An instrumental, that is. I don't have any way to actually record vocals from, let's say, this thing to the computer. So I'm just putting it out there. Okay? I love you all. Bye. Go ahead. Just stop.
So you may see here the rumor that to produce electronic music, you just have to press 2 buttons is not true. You actually have to press 4 buttons. So Tombstone, would you like to explain to us what you're doing right now?
I don't know. I'm just talented. I can do everything just from by ear and everything. That's who I am. What I'm doing right now, and I kind of weird that I haven't actually showed since all the people just joined the panel. You know what? Let's start all over again. Okay, let's do everything from scratch. Because no, seriously, I don't mind doing that. I mean, and I'm serious that if you have something and you're not really confident about it, don't feel bad about starting from scratch and trying something else with it. Because the idea needs to be fleshed out to the point that you know what you want in the end. Because sometimes you have an idea and it's like, oh, it sounds good, and then you start working on this for 2 hours and you're like, I like what I made with that, let's say, melody here, but the rest of it sounds like junk. So I'm just gonna restart everything, just take the lead and try it from fresh. That's how, let's say, the Discord remix came to be, because I remember I had the vocals already. I had an idea in my head, and then it's like, oh, it didn't sound good, but I like this lead that really accompanies the vocals, and then start all over again, and then the remix itself, I just, did on the third take or so, basically, after working on that. So keep that in mind. Don't feel bad about, sacrificing your work in order to make something better.
You could have at least saved it.
I don't wanna. So I'm gonna basically, the process you're gonna see me go through, again, I'm not gonna talk while I work because it's just gonna take a lot of my time in order to have this finished. And you guys feel free to just look at the screen over here, the next screen that says, yay. There we go. So you're gonna see how I start with just the lead melody, just compose something out of my head that I think sounds good. And then from there I work my way down with having the accompanied, like instruments like the keys, the bass, and the drums, and everything else basically to accompany it. That's the way I work. I know some people like to have everything already started when it comes to production, and then start working on whatever they have. It really doesn't matter. I mean, the idea is that if you have a way to have a product and just make something from start to finish, then go, by all means, do it. There's no right or wrong here, basically, when it comes to making music. Talk.
No.
Yes. I was expecting some people to line up here to ask questions.
Oh yeah, that would be great. Do you guys have like, if you all have questions, yeah, just basically line up here, I think.
Yeah. Over there.
Oh, over there, okay.
This is basically a Q&A panel, and this stands for question and answers. And the questions are from you.
Okay, I have a
So
question.
many people.
Does any of you make music here? Raise your hand. Okay, that's not much, right?
Yeah, I've got a question actually. I got a filming.
Line up and there's a microphone over there to ask a question with.
I'll make sure it doesn't go out the line. Oh, the line is so long.
And remember, the questions have to be family friendly. I don't know how about the answers.
Is this okay? Yeah. Okay. I have a question concerning singing in remixes. If you have lyrics and you want somebody to sing them, do you like ask someone else to sing for you, or do you use parts of singing you've already seen?
The question you're asking is like, when it comes to songs and remixes, do you basically often ask someone else to sing for you, right? Or yes. How does it? I mean, when it comes to that, I don't know. The way, let's say, our work is that I sing the song myself at the very beginning, because in my case, like, I don't know how to write, and basically just explain by in theory like how I want my music to sound. So I just sing it myself. I do everything myself, and then I show to whoever I want them to sing the song based on what I recorded as a very sketchy way of me singing something. That happens many times where it's like saying, hey, I want you to sing this, listen to what I sang, and then you repeat what I did and in your recording, basically. And that's how, let's say, I work when it comes to doing that.
Almost everything I do is instrumental, but if I did work a lot with vocals, for originals, I'd usually do the vocals with the track. I'd get the person to sing, then probably adjust tell the singer to sing a bit differently if needed or such, and readjust the track. But for remixes, you always need to reuse the vocal that's already been made, so you always base your remix on some other vocal.
Yeah, basically, if you talking about remixes, you don't usually re-record the vocals. You just take what's there. Unless you're making an original with vocals, you of course have to record vocals. And the way I do it is just like Tombstone explained. So I record a demo and send it to the singer, and she or he, whatever, we'll sing it in high quality again.
What she said.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi guys.
Hi.
So my question is to all of you, anyone who feels like it can answer. Suppose Hasbro calls you up and they're like, oh, we really like your music and we would like you to make like an original tune for an upcoming episode or movie, but it has to be like, it has to fit in the show and be family friendly and all that. What would be your reaction? Would you be like, oh, that would be fun, or would it seem like it would be challenging to have to do something that actually fits well in the show?
I guess that depends because it is a big challenge to ask someone, especially Hasbro, to make something for the show and to make something for it. But there's also a lot of risk taking when it comes to making someone who, you know, it's kind of like everything and nothing at the same time. They ask something from you to make a song and they probably expect from you a certain thing, but it also limits you because they expect you to be making it specifically on that, you know, very tiny box of margin where they ask you to make something specific. So in that case, it has to be a kids show. So you cannot, let's say in my case, I make a lot of music that sometimes has a lot of roughness to it and something like that. And it's not gonna fit the show. So it's basically, in my case, it's basically just going to stretch my limits to what I am capable of doing. So even though it's a very big opportunity, I would also be very scared of, you know, how it's gonna be made in the end of it.
I'll just say I'd do it.
I would at least try, but I know that the way I work, it would be hard to switch to this completely different style of the songs or the music that's used in the show, so I have my problem, but at least we'll try.
At first, I would be very surprised that they do it. At second, it totally depends on what they want. Because Hasbro is always very specific what they want. And if it's something I want to do it, can do it, of course I will not do it. But yeah, I would try, yeah.
Thank you.
So, is there a genre you guys haven't done yet?
Hey PJ!
Hey, what's up, dude? Hey, so is there a genre you guys haven't done yet, but you're interested in doing? And I have one other question. You mentioned there were 4 buttons. I've been looking through this software for quite a while, and I can't find these 4 make music buttons, and I'd like you to tell me where I can find them.
Dr. Drum.
Oh, come on, please. But yeah, the other question.
The other question.
Thank you.
I guess I really want to try out jazz music more, but it's such a genre that in a lot of digital or audio workstations, it's really hard to work against it unless you have somehow to perform and record everything. Because when you try to compose it, you're very stuck and it has to be very rigid. Because as you can see, whenever I put a note on there, it's very it snaps to the specific grid that I'm working with, which means that, you know, making jazz music, it has to be free form, it has to be more flowing and real, which is why it has to be imperfect in many cases. So it's definitely a genre I want to work with, but it's very hard to still get my head wrapped around it, especially since I'm working in stuff that doesn't work that way anyway. Jazz is not electronic like the way that, you know, it works. I'll shut up now. Just go.
I really always wanted to try drum and bass and hardstyle.
Is that it? Or not dubstep? What I would like to try is actually progressive rock, because I like that music. I'm listening to Porcupine Tree a lot, but I guess I have to find some other musicians to work with me together on this, because doing this alone is a bit not exactly what I'm looking for.
I would try to make something orchestral because I didn't even try it, but it's harder to do it in computer than in real life because you have to do a lot of technical stuff that's not related to music in general, and there are orientations to orchestral music when you make it in a computer as well. So that's orchestral music.
You could always make nightcore, but I'm gonna say thank you. So thanks for answering my question.
No.
Hello? Alright. I was wondering what are your preferred tools of trade? You see Tombstone working with Fruit Loops, and I suspect you use instruments as well by times. So what do you choose preferably?
Oh, like instruments?
Instruments, programs, your APIs, I can see there are a bunch of.
The FL Studio is basically one of the only programs I worked on a daily basis when it comes to music, because I mean, it also evolved a lot. So now you can do everything from top to bottom, everything when it comes to sound design. And I know some mastering engineers who use FL Studios. I know a lot of people who use it just for making soundtracks. It's a very versatile program, and definitely one of my only things that I go through when it comes to doing anything. Sometimes Audacity, just for recording very basic vocals, because with FL Studio, even though you can do everything, recording vocals is one of the only things that it's a bit of a hectic problem, because you need to open a different software within FL Studio just to record vocals, and I would recommend using something else as a way to just do it very quickly. So Audacity, maybe sometimes use recording with electric guitar and all that stuff, but FL Studio is basically my go-to thing.
Same as Tombstone, I also use FL Studio for almost everything. But of course, I don't know if we should say this, but for instance, synthesizers we use for our productions. For instance, I use Contact a lot, which is just used for libraries. I use it a lot for orchestral sounds and such. And for instruments, for instance, Cylind one is awesome, Diva, Zebra, etc.
I am not FL Studio. Since I've been a child, actually, I think I was 8 when I got my first version of Logic back for Windows 3.1, and I'm working with Logic until this very day. I've tried a few other DAWs, but it never really fit my need, and since I'm working a lot with hardware synthesizers and software as well, this gave me just what I need, and I never really had the need to look for another software.
Actually, I always wanted to try to learn how to use Logic, so...
It's kind of hard to switch your DAW because you kind of stick to it, you get used to a lot of stuff there. And when I tried to switch to Logic, I was taking days to figure out how to scroll, just scroll down and see what they are, or zoom or in and out, something like this. But I'm using Ableton Live for about 10 years. Or something like this. I don't use hardware synthesizers, so everything is software. Maybe you know the names: Sound 1, Zebra, Spire, maybe FM8, Diva, something like this. I can't go on forever, but there was since good.
Quite a bunch.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Well, next week, Reason 4, or if you're gonna go all the rage, Magic's Music Maker.
Maybe.
EJ.
Oh god.
I have questions for beginners. At home, I have a stage piano, a pretty cheap MIDI converter, USB MIDI, and Magic's Music Maker, and I'm not really satisfied. I would like to ask, have you some tips, some suggestions what I should replace? Is it necessary to buy a really expensive sound card with MIDI input or something?
It's best not to buy like expensive equipment at the beginning, even though it might help you in the process. But when you're just starting, try everything to get what you need, you get your hands on for like free, especially like software and such. And just like experiment until you feel like you need extra stuff. Because I know some people who think that having a studio and having everything at the start is a good thing. And while I could say that it does definitely help, it's just that it's best to start small and see how you work your way through. The more you overwhelm yourself with stuff, you're not going to be as excited to work on music when. I don't know, it's not going to necessarily help you. You just need to start small, and with time you're going to understand what you do need, what you don't need. You don't need to waste money on everything, is what I'm saying. So if what you're working on doesn't satisfy you, it's always good to change, but never feel like what you're working on is not as good as Ableton Live or Cubase or whatnot. Because every software, if it makes music, makes bleeps and bloops, that's good enough for production.
For hardware, I guess MIDI keyboard is at least essential because playing on a keyboard is really just difficult. I mean, you can do it, but it doesn't feel natural, definitely. As for software, I don't know, everything really works, even though I suggest getting something instead of Magic's Music Maker because as far as I remember, I think it's mostly sample-based, right?
I have no idea, it doesn't work for me.
Well, generally, you want to try and get some sort of software synthesizers that can actually live synthesize instead of using samples. Because, you know, when you have a pre-recorded sample of, I don't know, some sort of synth sound, you can't do a lot with it. So.
Okay. I suppose you want to use the stage piano just as an input device.
I'm coming from piano. I played like 20 years. And I want to get into the digital stuff like dubstep and this kind.
Well, the piano is always helpful to find melodies. What I would suggest is that you find a small audio interface. Just audio interface. Your MIDI connection should be fine. A small audio interface that has maybe a native ASIO driver, so you can play latency free. That means if you press a key on a keyboard, immediately there's a sound from the software synthesizer. Otherwise, you always have a little delay, especially with onboard cards. So a little audio interface. It doesn't have to cost more than $100 or something like that. Should be enough with a decent ASIO driver, and there you go.
So I will always have a delay with MIDI?
No, only if you have, the MIDI is practically has almost no latency. It's more the audio part.
Okay.
That means even if you don't have a MIDI keyboard, if you like click on a virtual keyboard on the screen, it takes some time until there's sound in the output. And if you have an audio interface with a decent ASIO driver, which is known for low latency, you will click on the key or press on the key on the keyboard, and immediately there will be sound. Because there's a direct connection between software and the hardware, and there's no operating system in between. That's what the normal sound driver is like.
Thank you.
So you're playing piano for 10 years, right? 20. Oh, good. You should actually not abandon it, you use it. Do you have piano at home? Do you have piano at home? Oh, here you have a stage piano. What I say that you just use it. You can record what you play for melodies and such, and then use some free software like Reaper. It's a good though. It's free for personal use. I think it's as good as FL Studio or Ableton, just free. And you can figure out what to do next. And just like you want to do some electronic music, right? Very electronic music, right? Tune. Can you make it quieter? Just So you play piano, you can use it for melodies, and then you record audio of it, just like somewhere, anywhere you want, and then use a program like FL Studio or something like this to input keys, melodies, and use software instruments for it. So you can use both your skills, old skills and new skills at the same time. I would recommend free workstation that's like FL Studio, but it's free for personal use. It's called Reaper, Reaper.fm. You can find your way how to use it and stuff, how to input. It has some synths in there as well, I think. So you can just play around and see what that does. It has help as well, so you can just figure out what to do. But yeah, you don't need to spend much to start making music, but money really helps to like make things nicer. But you don't need to start.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How do you incorporate some of the show elements into your music? I mean, not just remixes, but themes and characters, and how do you express them in your music?
Many times, especially in my case, let's say if the way I sometimes go about it is when you make, let's say, an original song and you want to write a song about someone, then you basically dissect like the character's its traits and everything in order to have like an original song. So basically, let's say you make one about Applejack, so you make everything. You write the lyrics based on that, and you also think about the elements that, Applejack is like, a setting. So it's like she's like supposed to be, it's kind of like a countryside and everything. So you make you think about making country music. So you express it by, reflecting what the character is about, and not always by, as you say, sometimes you could definitely just take the vocals from a song and just work with it. There's that, and there's sometimes actually working with vocals from the show. Like some musicians I know, they splice and basically they cut certain elements from the vocals and make like an entire song based on that. A lot of artists like So Great and Powerful and Peking Pie Square used to do that, where they basically cut vocals and they work with it. So.
Yeah, as he said, it can be it can sometimes be a bit difficult, but it can also be easy. For instance, as he said, you want to try and make that character feelable inside of that track. For instance, I don't know if you're making Fluttershy track, you would try to make something gentle and nice. Or as he said, example for Applejack. For instance, all of my music is mostly instrumental, so it's usually a bit of a problem how to show someone that this song is actually related to this character. It's mostly on a personal level how I feel of that character. I can generally just hope that other people will possibly feel it too. For remixes, for instance, if it's some sort of song from the show, it can either be how he said, spice up the vocals, but it can obviously also be a whole song based on the same melody and everything. So.
I actually don't do that. The music, the originals and the remixes I make could be completely non-pony stuff. I try to make serious music and just throw some pony samples or somewhat in it, just to set some kind of contrast about that, yeah. So my music will sound different if the show wasn't there. I don't say I write a pony song now. I just write a song and then add some pony samples and suddenly it's a pony song.
So you asked how we do it, right? Yeah. Well, it's not like we always consciously try to fit the character or make music about some character, but it totally depends on the song. But sometimes it just flows naturally. Sometimes it struggles to do it.
Yes, sometimes it can be a theme.
Yeah, but basically, it's just how it's a very wide question. But just try what fits, what knowledge is trial and error. Try doesn't work, try something else and doesn't work. Something like this. That's your question, probably, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. My question is, how different is the process between making music yourself and when you're collaborating with other people?
The process is very different, especially since you work online. Then half the time you have to kind of like decide on which elements you want to focus on and what elements the other guy is working on. And half the time let's say when I collab with someone, I have to argue of what does constitute a collaboration and what doesn't. Like, is it actually asking him to just sing the vocals? Is it all from like asking someone to collaborate, or is it actually just asking him to do one part and I do, let's say, the 80% else or something like that? I don't know, that's kind of like the reason why collaborations are so hard to do, because at the time you have to fight with yourself and say that, this part should be good enough, and you need to also always have like someone to criticize you as you work on, and vice versa. Which is different because when you work by yourself, and as you can see, like I'm making a very quick song with myself without them, criticizing or saying anything. And that's because I know what I wanted. I know how to start to finish. I want to make on a song. which is different. As I said, it's different from collaborating because then you actually have to take the other person into account and start brainstorming towards what could be beneficial from both parties. Which is why I, by the way, recommend to work on music with another people like physically in the same room rather than online, because it just turns to a broken phone, and that means that it's much harder to collaborate that way.
Yeah, what can be sometimes a bit difficult with collaborations is sometimes that two people cannot really agree how they want to do it. One person has one vision how to do something, the other person has a different vision, and that might prove to be a bit of an issue. It usually happens with me. I always have a whole vision how some songs should look like, and then, well...
I have to say I'm very new to collaborations, except vocal collaborations, that we already discussed this, how we do this. Recently I did a collab, so to say, with Archie, and it basically happens like this. He wrote a song and he wasn't really satisfied with it, and he sent it to me, and I may or more or less had ideas about it, and he sent me the single tracks, and I took out what I didn't like and add my new stuff, which I like, and then I sent it back to him, and we discussed which we will keep and which we will throw out again. And that's how the only collaboration I did so far, the only instrumental collaboration I did so far, worked out. Yeah.
Well, there's no like specific way how to do it, but it's like a personal thing. For some people, it works best if you like decide what exactly someone else is doing. Maybe it works better, like JB said, just like make music, make a song, you don't like it, send it to the other guy, he changes up, sends back, and just like ping pong between each other. But sometimes, most of the time, when people like, hey, let's make a collab, okay, and nothing happens at all. Yeah. It's like 90% of the time. So there should be someone who like takes initiative and like sees it through. But basically, musicians are passive people. They like just like. They're not going to like try and make a collab till the end, but that's what you ask, right? So that's it. That's your answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, how do you not copy someone else with a rhythm or something like that?
How do you not copy
Well, basic answer is that you just don't. But then again, I don't know. You just if the question is more related to if you make something and you might be afraid that it sounds like something else that already been made. And the thing is that you'll never be original no matter how hard you try to come up with something completely out of the blue, because even the most original stuff doesn't necessarily mean it's better or good. So you have to work based on your own principles and based on what you think is good, and not always because it has to be original. But definitely just try to say to yourself that what I think is a good idea, nobody else thinks that should sound good regardless. That's why you sometimes need to believe in yourself when you work on something, because sometimes that's the reason why people come up with original ideas, is because they thought about them first and they believed in them before anyone else did. And yeah. Oh, by the way, for those who noticed and don't hear anything from the speakers anymore, is because I want to let them guys also answer, and because the music kind of distracts and everything, so in the last 20 minutes I'm gonna put the music again so you'll see what I made so far. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I once heard some sort of a saying that every song is a remix of another song. Because what happens is, when you listen to a lot of music, you somehow start hearing different patterns and such, and then you're sometimes like, oh, I want to try this sounds very good. And then I often do that. I mean, I listen to some commercial trends and such, I hear something that I really, really like and I want to try something similar. But I usually don't do it exactly like that. I completely change it around. And then it ends up being something completely else. But it's still, there's something very similar. The issue is that even though, there's practically unlimited number of ways to do something in music, it's still very easy to do something similar accidentally even, because there's really actually a limited number of ways how to do, for instance, some sort of a bass line or something.
Yeah, the thing about copying is not the copying itself. I don't think copying itself is bad, because that keeps the system up to date, I'd say. It's about what you copy and in which way. For example, if you like an artist, whatever, like electronic music artist, and you like the way he makes his beats and his basses, you maybe just copy the bass, or you do something similar to that, but maybe another artist makes better bass, better drums, and you take the drums from him, and then you combine them, and you practically have something new. And you do this with the other elements as well. And sooner or later you will have the mixture of the things you have collected will somehow make your own sound in the end.
What I would say is that it definitely helps evolve music. I mean, music wouldn't be changing over time if people wouldn't be reusing some stuff and slightly changing it. It's really what drives the whole system.
Oh, did you mean copy like digital copy, copy-paste, just like make a copy of the file, or just like idea, beats, and something like this? Well, ideas, they're limited. There are not many ideas. Like, there's research scientific paper somewhere that says like that there are only like 200,000 combinations of melodies in the world that are listenable. Or you just going through them around. What's fashionable now, fashionable later, like just. And when you make music, you usually don't try to avoid something, because if you like hear some music you like and try to replicate it, it's not going to be the same. So it's going to be something different usually. So you just don't bother. That's your question, right? All right. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And Tombstone, can I maybe get a bro? Can I maybe get a bro?
No.
Hello, living Tombstone. I have a question for you. Do you like working together with, example, wooden toaster for glaze and brony dance party? Or?
It's funny that you mentioned Brony Dance Party, because I never actually worked with him. He just made animations on my music that I already finished way before. And with Wooden Toaster, however, it's more like he's very talented. He's very good at coming up with melodies and coming up with a lot of really good compositions, which is why working with him was such fun that I made 2 songs with him actually. I was planning to make like a 3rd one with him, but that kind of like took a while. But so it's like it's great, but it also depends like on sometimes, you know, over time. I don't know. For example, me and Glaze don't necessarily talk as much. You know, not because of something personal happened, just because it's like, I mean, he's doing his own thing, I'm doing my own thing, and that's something that you know, sometimes kind of like hinders from actually working with people. Is that not every time you get to talk to them, because they might be busy, I might be busy, and that's how it is.
Okay, and I would like say a really big thing on using your OC for my OC calendar 2015. And when it's okay for you, I would like to give you an exemplar from OC calendar with photo paper.
What?
I can't.
Ist noch Platz frei?
Ja.
Ducken. Durchgehen. Danke.
Hi people. I have a question about lyrics for remixes. Unless you somehow get into Hasbro Studios and get the lyrics track, how do you extract it
from a song to make a remix?
Well, the episodes that you get on iTunes and such come with the surround track. So you have 6 channels. You have center, front 2 channels, and 2 back channels, and subwoofer channel, right? So you take that audio track out and you separate the channels. And the way how they mix their music is that the vocals are usually, not always, usually on the center channel. So if you extract only the center channel, you will usually get like music-free vocals. There is a little bit of music, there is some reverb from the other channels and such. It doesn't work always though. For some reason, there was one of the songs in this season, I can't remember which one. Yeah, Heart's Strongest Horses. And what they did is they had the different Cutie Mark Crusaders on different channels. If I remember correctly, Skutlu was the only one on center and the others were on left and right because, you know, there's like 3 of them and they wanted to make it sound like that. But yeah, that's kind of way how to do it. It doesn't work always, but it's one of the ways.
That's it. Thank you.
Hi, so my question is, what happens to your deleted scenes? Like when you're making a song and you find one bit that doesn't fit right into the rest of it. Do you ever use them again, or do you completely delete them and never to be seen again?
It depends. In my case, I really tend to like, if there's something that I don't like, I immediately remove it because sometimes, you know, it's like I want to focus on what I'm working on to begin with, and I don't want to focus on other things while I work on an idea that already established in the start. It's a give or take thing, because sometimes you can, you know, remove something that might actually work, but then again, it's like it really depends on the artist's perspective on what you think is unused and not used. So I hope that covers it, because it's a really weird, it's kind of a weird question to kind of like give a clear answer to, if you get what I'm saying. So
I'd say it depends a bit on the size of the parts that you don't like. For instance, if it's a whole section or a melody, I would save it as a project and in some sort of folder to use or such. But if it's some sort of, I don't know, build-up or some small section of a track that I can remove, I will just cut it out and, or maybe I'll even replace it with something that just works better.
I usually remove the bits that I don't like, if it's within a song. The only exception is if I play like a longer lick or like acoustic drums that I play live on the keyboard. And the take is basically good, but something is missing. I keep it and re-record it. Maybe I mix the 2 takes up, but this is rather seldom.
Oh, to me as well, it totally depends what kind of thing I'm throwing out. If it's like just melody, but I like it, but doesn't fit the particular song, I save it. I just drag and drop the melody out. But if it's like drum or some sets, and I just like can remove it completely. I throw away anything I can replicate easily. But if it's like a melody, I can go back later, like in 2 years, and wow, it's really good. I can use it. That's your question, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is, for how long have all of you been making music?
I've been making for technically over 8 years music, but only for the past 4 years I've been like studying how to do production and produce music basically. Yeah.
I've been playing with EJ back in elementary school or so, and then there was this huge pause of not doing anything during the high school. And right now, well, you know, I'm doing in FL Studio and such for about 3 years or so. The first Pony song that I released was practically my first actual true production that I was proud of, so.
Well, I got my first keyboard when I was 4. So basically I'm making music since I'm 4. But production, I started producing in about 2003, 2004, so it's 10, 11 years, and I focused on trance in 2005, 2006.
Well, I've been making music for about 7 years only, and it's like I'm not as good as these people are, but yeah, it's 7 years or something like this. You can't expect to be good in just 1 year, 2 years, and like I've been playing with piano when I was small, like child, like 7 years as well, but I don't think it has been useful. I just didn't see it as useful as well. Just like, wow, it's making sounds. Wow, that's it. And I've been just 7 years. That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And can I get a high five from all of you?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, sure.
Hello. So the question I have is a bit more a technical question. I see like Tombstone working on stuff. When you're hearing something, you like put a high pass on it, like where it ends, so like the sub frequencies don't get like screwed up by feedback or whatever. But here's like the question: does it actually matter what kind of slope strength you use on the high pass? Because I heard if it's too strong, it creates like resonance, and that's bad.
Oh yeah.
And do you use different slope strengths for different instruments?
It really depends. Like when it comes to me doing those high passes and low passes, I usually do it by almost most of the time by ear. Like I make sure that if I do like too much of a steep slope, then hold on, I'll also demonstrate because it's really hard to explain. For example, here, that's a very steep slope, but I do it just to make sure that that a lot of the frequencies here are just shave them off because they don't need to be there when I'm just trying to make sure that that there's everything a place in the mix it's mostly an instrument that plays mostly on 400 kilohertz and up basically. So I don't need everything else before that. But sometimes I actually make what you said, just make it a non-linear slope, which means that it's really firm. Because sometimes I want to keep some of the frequencies just down below, but I don't want them to be shaved off. Because, like you said, sometimes it becomes resonant, sometimes it doesn't. So it really depends on the situation. But yeah.
He practically answers the same way I would.
Yeah, there's not much to add here. Usually when I'm just trying to reduce frequency mass, I use rather flat filters like 6 dB, which I love to use for pad sounds, or 12 dB for leads, for example. Because everything above that, 80 or 24 or even 48 dB per octave, you're some kind of forming the sound. And this can be heard in the mix. This can be nice, or this can be terrible as well. Only, of course, if you're working on the master channel, you of course have a rather steep flank at 30 Hertz to fill all the subharmonics.
There's nothing else to add. I adapt and depends on the problem. I have technical background. I've been audio engineer more than musician, so I always fix problems only when they happen. So I throw around stuff first, and when I'm like in final stages, mastering and mixing, I then try to see that there's a problem with some ring and I fix this slope, or that's it. Just like I'm adaptive, but when I'm making music, I don't want to spend time doing these slopes right then, but just like later. Some things can be saved for later. That's your question, right? Right. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. My question is technically two questions. First of all, how did you all come to get to your styles? What makes your sound you? And what was the story of how you found out how you went to your sound? How can you tell when you can tell just from listening to a song? Oh, that's Tombstone. Oh, that's Mike the Microphone.
I don't know. I guess more like establishing ideas that you thought of originally, and you're kind of like going with something that only you think that is right, and that's what I did in the very beginning when I made music my own way, without even thinking about what it constitutes as doing the right way or not. Which is why, you know, there's some style established. That's why my compositions sound unique, because they're mostly taken from my inspiration from songs all the way from my childhood when I used to be a kid, and I used to be in love with the fact that happy melodies are what they are, and I was kind of like sad to hear that, you know, not that many people in the industry or ever really like to go, you know, fully like the way that people compose sometimes. So that's kind of like, you know, that's kind of like you just establish what you think is right. It doesn't necessarily having your own unique sound. It's more like having what you believe is good for you and go with it, and without really going against what people tell you and stuff. So, yeah.
Well, before I started to actually produce music, I listened a lot to trance, like a lot. One of my favorite musicians was Andy Blumen. He makes like pure uplifting trance. And what always fascinated me with his productions is that it's always a combination of both orchestra and trance. So ever since I started producing, I always wanted to combine orchestra with trance, because it always reminded me how awesome his music was. So recently, I don't know how much you listen to my music, but I started making a lot of orchestral tracks, not only just trance, but orchestral as well, because there's something that I don't know, I just feel a lot of connection to it. And when you said recognizing styles of other artists, there's always some sort of patterns that artists like to use, like something they're very comfortable with and such. Or there's some sort of signature sounds. For instance, one of my sounds that I almost always use are different sweeps in my tracks. I always reuse the same sound because they just sound so good. You can just adjust it a little bit, it will be the same sweep, but it will sound good even in a new track.
I'm right now ordering sentences in my head. The thing with me, the way I'm working forces me to do a lot of sound design myself. So I can't just take like a sound bank that you find like for Cylind or something like that and download it and put it into Cylind, because I'm working a lot with Hopper synthesizers and you just don't have these sound banks to download. And just because these synthesizers sound different than Cylind or Diva or Zebra or whatever, makes the sound different and sort of unique, and the combination of all this shapes the sound after all. And also the way you mix, like how do you manage bass lines, how do you manage leads, how do you put them in the mix, and how do you decorate this all with effects? This forms your sound, the sound of your sound, yeah.
You know that for most people, what they're at best at, it's very easy for them. So the signature sounds for most people, it's it's easiest for them to do. So they don't actually try hard to do it. That's your question, right? So, and it's not like finding your sound, it's just like some practice you keep doing and repeating, and just like turns out the same, some aspects of it, like that. That's it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks, that question has been plaguing me for the 4 years I've been producing.
Yeah, just don't worry about making your own sound, because if you try to force it, it will not sound natural, it will not sound your signature, it will sound like you're trying to imitate someone. People will hear it, so don't try. Just do what you like to do, and that's it. That's your question, right?
Right.
Alright, thank you.
And experiment a lot.
Yeah, experiment a lot. Don't try to just box yourself in.
Thanks.
Alright.
Just a quick thing for Mr. Landau here. My friend back there really wants me to take a picture of you wearing this.
Can we do this outside? Is it okay?
Huh?
Is it okay if we're gonna do this outside?
Yeah.
Alright, awesome, thank you. We'll do this. 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 We'll do this.
Oh, okay.
Later. Typically, we're right now going overtime, so we're gonna finish the last questions, and then I'll show what I made so far. I think it's done, but it definitely just needs structuring and that's it.
Okay, hello. So my question is, how do you guys deal with writer's block? With creative blocks. When you just can't, like, you try to produce and you can't, yeah.
Very, very difficultly.
I just wait.
For some reason,
Play some games.
sometimes I get a writer's block that lasts for like 2 months or something, but then I suddenly just get ideas and then I can just suddenly finish the whole track. So it's usually just a waiting game for me.
Basically what I said.
Just every time I have a writer's block, I try my best to always tell myself that it happens mostly because, well, you just don't have, writer's block is basically you don't have any ideas. In my case, I just think that it happens because it's, what to say, that it's mostly because I don't feel as inspired as I used to be when I first started. And that whenever that happens, I just stop and I keep thinking about that same project for like, let's say a week sometimes, and then I kind of like, hey, that other song that I listened to the other day had some really creative way of melody, and I just try to work myself from the thing that got me inspired, and kind of like, you know, sometimes, you know, I kind of lost my train of thought back there. I have my own writer's block right now. It's so funny, but yeah. Just sometimes, you know, writer's block mostly happen to me whenever I think that what I have in mind is not good enough, and I need something really good to, in order to finish this off and make this better. So, which is in more cases, I just try my best to listen to other stuff and see if I get inspired by something that gets me going, and that's how I do it.
What usually happens to me is that I usually get bored of the track I work on. It's just, I've been re-listening to it whole day, working on it. Just I keep hearing the same melodies over and over, and it just becomes boring to me, and then I don't know how to continue it.
Yeah, the best thing you do is basically stop for a moment. If you're directly in the middle of a song, like export it, put it in an MP3 player, listen to it from time to time while you're doing something else, but listen to a lot of other stuff. And maybe one day you say, that's missing, and then you go on.
Exactly.
Well, essentially, writer's block is just you're out of ideas. So try to find ideas somewhere else, like take a break from making the song or making music completely. Like go to somewhere else, like more travel.
Like seriously, go watch a movie. Like go to the theater and watch a movie. Sometimes I get the best ideas after, you know, the feeling of awe when you watch something really good, like an action film or something like that in theaters. Sometimes I get really inspired.
Yeah, do something. Don't try to sit there at home playing games. You need to be physically somewhere else. It's very important.
No, wait, don't do that. Play home and just play video games, you become PewDiePie in a matter of seconds. You'll be good.
No.
Yes, I get inspiration in shower if that helps.
Yeah, some people work like that, but not me. But I just try to find ideas somewhere else. That's your question, right? How to deal with writer's block. Just stop and get ideas somewhere else, and just maybe you, like, it clicks. Wow, that's a good idea for music. That's your question, right?
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Hi. My question is, how did you all get into making, producing music? Well, how did it start?
How did it happen in the first place, you mean?
Yeah, from each of you, different.
You go first.
For me, well, as I said, actually, for me, I wanted to produce ever since I started listening to some very, very old stuff like Robert Miles, for instance. And when I heard the music, I was just amazed how beautiful it sounds. And I always wanted to produce, and only way later, actually, I heard it like when I was a very little kid. And as I said earlier, in one of the questions, then I started doing DJ in elementary school, and it went from there.
It made click after the first studio sessions I had with my band. Before this, I was just making music, and after that, I said, "Hey, they're doing arrangements, and I want to do that too." And I bought equipment, and I started.
For me, it's a little bit different because I've been audio engineer before I tried to make music, So for me, I've seen musicians sit across the room and record their music. So I was thinking, how is it for like to be the guy that makes music? So I just tried. That's it's been like 7 years ago. That's your question, right?
Yeah.
I've just been in love with music since childhood, which is why it made me pursue the idea of how do people make music? How do the things that I listen to on my iPod sound so good? So I just looked up the internet to see what program people use. Some people who make like, you know, like a lot of amateurs who just basically open up FL Studio, and I just wanted to see, okay, so they can do that, so I can do that too. Just start from somewhere. And this is my go-to software for over 8 years that I've been, you know, learning from other people just like me who just make music for the fun of it, or either for as a job or whatever. And that's how I get into music.
Okay. Can I help you?
Yes.
No.
Maybe.
So this is the end of the panel, and during the time, as you noticed on the screen, I did like stupid stuff like that. Stupid stuff. I don't know how to write that. Anyway, so I basically, while we did this Q&A, and because I had to mute my music because we had to answer the questions, and we didn't want you guys to also focus on the making music and all the Q&A, it would be confusing. So I'll quickly explain what I did during the course of that, you know, for those who looked at the screen while we were talking. This is the melody that I came up with when we first started. Oh, sorry. Whoops. Hold on. What's going on? What's going on? Here we go. Here we go. So this is the melody I just came up with on the spot. And it just repeats itself again and again, because again, I don't have all the time in the world to make a big structure. I just made like a very short, very complex loop, basically. So, and then I added like other stuff. The second thing I added, like the stabs, basically, just like to accompany it. And also I did the bass. And I decided to also add like a bit of a layer of pad to it, so it will have a bit more focus. It basically uses the same melody as the bass. Oh, and I forgot to. And also an alternate melody that plays with it. And I decided to make this very basic, like Deadmau5-esque house track, basically, from like with sidechaining. Sidechaining is what a lot of people use as a term to use the what's the word? Can you guys like explain sidechaining, because it's really hard for me to explain it in. Basically, the pumping effect that people use, like in dubstep or house effect, it basically causes the song to gaze, basically like that. To like pump, basically. The program that you see here is not necessarily like a very complex software. It just basically does the pumping effect. It's called Kickstart, but you can do that same with FL Studio's gross speed, and just draw curves that has the same pumping noise, basically. You don't need that much complexity. And I basically sidechained all of these melodies, and the only thing I left out are the beats. That's basically it. Really quickly before you go. That's it. Okay, it's done. Bye.